Welcome to some new r/malicious compliance stories, where people comply to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. The first story is called Not at the Desk. This happened around 12 years ago. My wife, girlfriend at the time, worked for a small IT recruitment company as a recruiter. The offices were quite small, situated on the first floor of an office block with no balcony or kitchen, or any place to really take a proper lunch break. So my wife just sat at her desk during her allocated tea and lunch breaks and browsed her phone. Her PC was locked from accessing any websites, such as Facebook and such. She found out that she was reported several times for being on her phone at her desk, something that was not allowed while working. She argued that she was on her lunch break and that she was not working and could be on her phone. She was then told that she cannot be on her phone at her desk as her colleagues can't know that she's on break. She argued that there's nowhere to go for breaks, except for downstairs and outside, a place where the smokers take regular breaks. But nope, she was not allowed on her phone at her desk. So, from that day on, whenever the group of smokers took a break, she would go downstairs and stand with them, browse her phone and come up with them. This meant that she took breaks as frequently as the smokers did, and she was away from her desk far more than she was taking her previous breaks. It's small, but she felt a little victory inside. Luckily, she didn't stay in the job long. The next story is called Email Fun. For starters, I work in a tech company that handles multiple industries and provides software, hardware, and other things for all of those industries. My job is to handle all incoming inquiries for a select number of industries. A few weeks ago, I had an inquiry come in with the longest comment I've ever seen. This person rambled, made very little sense, and mentioned every industry my company works in, minus one. So I reached out to him via email, asking which solution he was interested in to narrow down the information I would need to send. He replied a few hours later with the snarkiest remarks I've received since working for this company. He demanded that I send the information he asked for. He never specified what he was looking for, just mentioned things he did in industries we cater to. I emailed back, again, asking in a clearer way for information on which solutions he needed information on, as there are a lot. The next morning, the first email in my inbox was from him, demanding that I send him the information and that it's not that hard to do and I should just do my job. Half of the email was in all caps. So after a chat with my boss, we decided malicious compliance was the only thing to shut this person up. So I spent the next hour compiling an email, sending every single informational brochure we had in our system. All of the brochures were PDF files. I compressed it into a massive file and sent it off. 3 days later, I get an email back from this dude asking what all that stuff was. I told him it was all of the information my company had to offer potential customers, since I was unable to narrow down specific areas of interest. Never heard from him again. I have never had so much fun putting together an email. The third story is called Drive-Thru. The staff at Wendy's today wouldn't serve me in the lobby because they didn't have a lobby till and demanded I go through the drive-thru. Normally I don't get this issue, because if they don't have a lobby till, they just walk my payment over to their drive-thru till and walk back. But today they wouldn't budge. So I walked through the drive-thru since I wasn't parked in their lot, but instead parked at my job, which was a couple of blocks away, and I walked over to Wendy's to get my food. When I walked through the drive-thru, they wouldn't serve me at the drive-thru because I wasn't in a car. So I held up traffic till they did serve me. Once I got to the payment window, the cashier decided to treat me like an actual human being. Told me I could come inside the lobby to get my food, where I saw another customer rating, being told the same thing. I told her what I just did to get my food, and as I'm walking back to work, I see her doing the same thing I did to get my food. I hope I created a domino effect of people doing this, but obviously I couldn't stay long enough to find out. The next story is called Until All Are Gone. I'm a master's student who works as a TA for a class of 60 students. It is a lab course, so there's a ton of setup and cleanup. I usually end up working an extra hour or two past the end of lab, which I get paid for, but it does mean I go home really late. So I started tidying up once most of the students were gone. There's another TA and the professor to answer questions. I did this for a few weeks until I missed a student's question. The prof yelled at me and embarrassed me in front of the students for not doing my job. The other TA was on his phone, and the professor was standing at the front not doing anything. He told me to absolutely not clean up until all the students were gone. We had one student that always stayed over an hour later than everyone else. The next week, the student was the only one in the lab for over an hour past the end of lab. The other TA was helping them. I stood there, not lifting a finger, until she left. I took my time tidying up. The other TA is useless and was barely helping. 2 hours passed, now 9 PM, and the lab was barely cleaned up. The professor started panicking, saying he still had to write lectures, do his own experiments, and then have an hour drive home. He had to help clean up. I did the same thing the next week, and the professor went into a full-on panic attack. He told me that I could clean up early next week. I told him that unfortunately, the extra hours I put into cleaning for the last 2 weeks used up all my hours for the semester, so I wouldn't be in. I heard that the next week was an absolute crap show, and the other TA complained that they were there almost until midnight. The fifth story is called Send Them Now. I used to work at a big international dark fiber provider in Europe. They wanted in on the telepresence market and bought the company I was working for. I was a second line tech and did some shipping of high priority RMAs and documents. So I had access to the company's DHL Express account, but only the Express account. They closed down the office because they wanted it moved to Bulgaria. I stayed on until the office closed for a small bonus, with helping the team in Bulgaria and cleaning up the office. One day, I got a request to send pictures of all cables we had in storage. It was a lot, mostly display cables and network cables. I took some pictures and sent them, thinking they will want me to get rid of them. But no, they need them in the Bulgarian office. I go, okay, but can you do the booking, since I only have access to DHL Express? Well, obviously this was out of the question, and I should ship them immediately. Tried to explain that it's super expensive to ship with Express, but he was having none of it. Just send me the cables. Okay boss, you got it. 529 pounds of cables coming your way via DHL Express. Roughly $4,000 was the cost of this, but they did get the cables the next day. The last story is called Getting Rid of the Boss. When my boyfriend Jake was 19, he had a job at a smoothie shop. He worked with 3 other people and his boss. We'll call him Michael. Jake's one stipulation before getting his job was that he not work with peanut butter since he is allergic. He'll break out in hives, and if ingested, his throat will swell. Not bad enough for EpiPen, but bad enough to need Benadryl. At this job they made protein balls and it was made with peanut butter. One day, during a rush, Jake was at the sink when Michael threw a big bowl of leftover peanut butter in the sink and told Jake to wash it. Jake argued and told him he can't touch it and that he'd have a breakout. Michael argued with him and told him to do it. So Jake, being the stubborn bastard he is, said okay, fine. Roughly 5 minutes later, Jake's hands and arms were covered in hives. Once his arms had visible hives, he took a picture and sent it to the work group chat the owners were in. Can someone cover my shift? I'm a tad under the weather, with pictures of his hands. He walked out before anyone responded. Someone covered his shift and the owners came in with the girl who covered the rest of his shift to yell at Michael. The next day, the girl told Jake about Michael getting chewed out by the owners. The owners called Jake and apologized for what happened. Long story short, that, along with stealing money from the registers and being creepy with the high school girls, Michael was fired. Jake quit shortly after, just because. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider subscribing to the channel for more content. Let me know what you think about the stories in the comment section below. Have a great day. Bye bye.